So welcome to our Block&Wine. It is number 125. We are at the end of a winter, but not yet at the end of a crypto winter, another one. And for this respect, it's my utmost pleasure to have an NFT project, and that's how I would like to introduce you, Jay. You are CFO of Moment. I put you in a nutshell in, let's say, the big box of NFT agencies, but you go far beyond that. Of course, we'll hear that close here. That's the first teaser. The second teaser is what is especially of interest to all of us is how you build sustainable crypto business in these times. There you have a clear answer. And the third teaser is, and maybe that goes too far, but we'll follow up in the discussion anyways, what are NFT use cases in the first place? We are following this question down the rabbit hole since quite a while now, and we see thousands of NFT projects out there worldwide looking for exactly that bounty, and you have a clear proposition on that. So your big shootout and applause of Jay and also Christian, that you both are here and taking the stance here. Thanks so much.
Right, okay, good evening everyone. I'm very happy to be here. So I see we're doing this in English, right? I was kind of prepared to do this in German, but it doesn't really matter. English is not good. So yeah, very happy to be here to present to you our concept Moment. But what I actually want to talk much more about is our learnings that we as a Web3 company have, let's say, experienced. We have a lot of exchange with the clients, potential clients, with users and so on. And I think we have some learnings from our perspective, which I hope that maybe you can also profit from. So from this perspective, I want to give you today's presentation. But before I start talking about other things, I actually would kind of like to know the audience. So I know that we're all blockchain enthusiasts and so on. But if you don't mind, I would just like to pose a couple questions to you to see kind of like where we all stand. So my first question is, who of you has ever held crypto in a cold wallet? Okay, yeah, very most of you, okay. Who of you has ever held an NFT? Right. Okay. Okay. So amongst NFTs, I mean there are many NFTs that offer some kind of a utility, right? So there could be, for example, NFTs that can be wearables for your avatar. There are NFTs that you can mutate. There are NFTs that serve as an entry ticket, as coupons and so on. Who of you has ever used an NFT in such a way? Used one of those? Okay. Okay. All right. Okay. Another question, who of you has ever been in the Metaverse? Decentraland or, yeah, okay, spatial, okay, all right, but it's fewer. Who of you has ever been in the Metaverse with the VR glasses, the virtual reality glasses? Oh, more, more people than have been in the Metaverse. Okay, question to those guys. How was your experience using those VR glasses? Like thumbs up, to the side, thumbs down? Really? Okay. Oh, all right. Okay, interesting. Okay. Okay, cool. So I'm here to talk actually about not just about NFTs, but Web3. We see ourselves as a Web3 company, and so to just kind of like define the ground, right? What is Web3, right? So to know Web3, we probably have to know what is Web 1 and 2, right? So just to recap, Web 1 is kind of like the read-only internet, right? The early stage internet where you go on a website and all you can do is you can read, right? There's nothing more you can do. Then eventually Web 2 followed, which was read and write, yeah? So that meant that you could create your own content, that meant that you could interact with people. That's where all these social media platforms came up, where you can create communities and so on, right? And eventually now we're seeing the transition to shutting down of my computer. Okay. So I hope this is the only time it's going to happen. I was kind of very ambitious to put a lot of videos in my presentation. I think that kind of okay, so far so good. Okay, good. So right. So it's always the tech, right?
No, you know, Web 1, Web 2, and Web 3.
That's right. That's right. Okay.
Amazing.
Let me see now if this. Oh, thank goodness. Okay. So Web3 is the internet where you cannot just read and write, but you can actually execute, right? It's a decentralized internet, right? Where you don't need the giants to be in between you and other users, right? Where you can actually have assets on the blockchain, assets that you can do with whatever you want, right? You have custody of them and all of that, right? So if we think about what does Web3 really consist of, I mean, in general, you would see these points, right? So you have crypto, you have NFTs, DeFi, Metaverse, right? So we actually think that you definitely could also count DAOs in there, right? You could actually also count AI in there. Of course, AI is not specific to Web3 in any way, but we think that the Web3, more than just being decentralized, it's also a very much more personal and intelligent experience, an experience that is much more catered to the individual, right? And we actually have been experimenting around a lot. Yeah. So our main learning point was that no one has Web3 really figured out yet, right? So I mean, if not even Mark Zuckerberg knows where it's going, then how can we know, right? But we tried to experience around a lot, and one of our key learnings really was that we think that the Metaverse is actually going to be the part of Web3 that is actually going to make blockchain, how do you say in English, massentauglich? Mass adoptional. That's actually gonna make blockchain mass adoptional, right? So I mean, most of you use cold wallets, right? And I mean, the experience of using a cold wallet is terrible, right? If we're honest, right? I mean, so first of all, you have to choose the one that you want to use, right? Then you have to write down your key, your secret phrases. You have to set up the cryptocurrency that you want. You actually have to know what are gas fees, how does it work, you know, how do the block settlement things work, right? If your crypto doesn't show up immediately on your wallet, right? So these are all really difficult things, and so we think that actually, as much as we love crypto, there hasn't been a mass adoption case yet, right? Even though there was the big hype in 2015, 16, 17, that was mostly because people wanted to get rich, right? They wanted to trade, but not because they were really interested in the tech and in all the opportunities it gives you, right? There might be some people who, you know, really want to be decentralized, they don't trust in the system. Okay, those are a different kind of group of people, but really mass adoption we didn't see because it's very complicated. But the Metaverse actually is something that isn't that far away from the average user. Because it's very similar to gaming, right? We all know Fortnite and things like that, right? It's not that difficult, right? It's not that different. And if you use a Metaverse where you don't need to download an app and where you don't actually need a browser extension wallet to enter it, then it's actually rather seamless, and if you put a person in the Metaverse, they intuitively know what to do, right? So that's why we actually see that the Metaverse is kind of like the entry point for many people to get into Web3, and once you're in a digital world, it's actually not that far to making use of digital assets, right? All of a sudden, if you spend some hours in the Metaverse, you know, you might be interested in actually buying some, you know, some outfit for your avatar, for example, right? You might actually engage in gamification where you win an NFT, which serves as a coupon for some purpose, or as an entry ticket for a different Metaverse, or things like that, right? So we think that this will open the way for digital assets also for the average user. So that's the user side, right? On the other hand, you have companies, large corporations, but also the average brand that you see that actually spend a lot of time thinking about Web3. I mean, you might not believe it, but they do, right? So we have two co-founders, Pascal, the CEO, he actually built a promotion company. They make promotion for many of the very large brands, for Lamborghini and Emirates and LG and Samsung and Philips and all of those, and he has a very strong network there. The other COO, Rudy, he actually built a social media company, and he had many very big clients also in the sports space. And so we talked to a lot of these very big brands, and actually we would say 95 to 97% of the large brands that we talk to have a very strong need to go into the Metaverse and to go into Web3 because they know that the future is there, right? Again, Facebook renamed to Meta, right? Because they see the future there. You have Microsoft and Google and all those investing two-digit billion amounts, right, into AI. You have many social media platforms starting to adopt blockchain solutions, NFTs, and so on. So many people believe that Web3 is the future, right? But if you talk to the brands also, they have no clue how to enter the space, right? Because how many of them know anything about a blockchain, right? They think, okay, so there was Nike and there was Adidas and there was whatever, Budweiser making NFT collections, collecting a lot of money, right? But how do we do it, right? What do we do, right? I mean, start talking to them about the 3 top blockchains for NFTs. Yeah, you will never explain to them and they will never make a decision, right? And nothing is ever going to happen, right? So that's where we kind of see our mission. We kind of came in and we said, okay, we want to be the bridge into Web3. So that's for the users, right? As well as for the brands. So for the users, you need to make the experience as seamless as possible, right? You don't want the user to even know that there's any blockchain in the background, right? You want them to be able to log in with their socials or with email. You want them to be able to seamlessly enter the metaverse to collect assets without actually even really having to care about that as on a blockchain. You don't want them to have to pay transaction fees, ideally, right? So we try to pay them for them just to make it as easy as possible, right? And on the other hand, you have the companies, the brands, and you need to talk to them and see what they actually expect, right? And as I said, we don't have it figured out, but what we started to do is to make a lot of experiments, right? And we actually have 4 pillars in our moment ecosystem, as we call it. We create NFTs called moments. We create metaverse spaces. We try to do content creation and community engagement, all, let's say, in the Web3 broader sphere. And let me give you some use cases that we have talked to companies about, okay? And the first use case that we actually had several inquiries about already is after COVID, right? Or during COVID, we all got used to home office, right? And many employees as well as companies got used to it, and they thought it's actually not that bad of an idea, right? But what is missing is the physical contact. And of course, the metaverse can't give you physical contact, but kind of like the metaphysical contact, yeah? And we had several inquiries in creating a virtual office. And so we actually said, okay, we're going to be the first one to create our own virtual office. It should have gone live yesterday, it didn't, but it's very close to. This is it. Nice up there in the mountains. It's so remote that you actually have to use a spaceship to get there, even though we have a lot of parking space up front. And a virtual office offers a lot of things that you probably wouldn't think is that interesting or probably wouldn't work, but it actually does in a very interesting way. So of course we have a meeting room you don't see quite here yet, where we are also having our meetings. So our team is 14 people. We are remote, decentralized in eight different countries, right? So, but what you can do is you can sit together, you can share a presentation, and the cool thing is especially if you go in VR glasses, that you are actually not distracted, right? If you have a Zoom meeting or a team meeting, you're on your mobile, right? You do other things, but if you are actually totally immersed, right? You don't wander off so much, right? Another interesting learning is, so we actually created working spaces for our people where you can sit as an avatar. I know we're not going to sit there and work, right? Not much anyways, but it's cool because you can put your avatar there. It's kind of like a voice channel, right? So you can go over to the person and you can actually start talking to them. But one really cool thing was that once we introduced it, everyone could pick a desk, okay? And we could tell them, create it as you want, right? And then people started coming up with really cool ideas. First of all, they put pictures and they put personal items, right? And then our creative director, she actually wanted a cinema screen and a beanbag, okay? All right, so we did that. And then we had our CTO saying, okay, can I bring my cat to work? And then we said, okay, well, an avatar cat, we probably won't have any difficulties with allergies and stuff, so it's no problem. But we are a metaverse company, we can do whatever we want, so why not put a unicorn in the metaverse, right? So we're working on putting a unicorn in the metaverse, and which my 3-year-old daughter already loves me for, right? But so what I want to say is, one learning is, in order to make a a space, if you wanted to adapt it in your company, and change management is always difficult, right? How do you get people to enter a new sphere, right? You need to give them the possibility to be creative and to actually be engaging, right? And to create it the way that they want. And that was one of the major learnings. So we are going live with this probably next week, and we already have two inquiries to build something very similar. One thing which definitely is going to come a lot is people want to communicate content, right? They want to be able to hold presentations. That is a very easy use case, right? And now we actually signed a contract today with a Swiss university. We're building a campus for them with 14 lecture halls and actually an administrative building where at some hours of the day there's even going to be a person there where people can go ask questions, they can get their schedule and so on, and it's to really kind of like have this campus experience in the metaverse. And obviously it's totally remote. It can be a lot more immersive and engaging, and that's also one thing that we see, that just communicating content, you can do it over a website, right? But honestly, it's very boring, right? It's very 2D, right? And I think in the future you will have a lot more people, instead of just, or companies, instead of just pushing their website, actually creating a small metaverse to actually make the content accessible in a much more engaging way. We also have an inquiry from a large Austrian company building hospitals. I mean, there are not that many, maybe you know which one it is, and they want to move some of the hospital departments in the metaverse, especially some, you know, where you can treat people by talking like psychological things, because, you know, first of all, you can treat them remotely, but also you can create the environment in a much more creative way, right? You don't have to sit in a dark gray room trying to make the people happy, right? You can put them in some really nice outside environment, something that actually feels good. It's just a test. It's just a test, but out of tests, in the end, you know, a lot more can come, right? And be created. One thing which is definitely going to move to the metaverse in some form or another is shopping, in our opinion, right? So we used to go for Christmas shopping, go, you know, into the city, go from shop to shop. Once we started be able to shop online, that changed a lot. It was a lot more convenient, but honestly, the experience is not that great, right? So for your Christmas shopping, you go on Amazon.com, you type in what you're looking for, and you're scrolling through some products, right? It's actually a bit boring, to be honest. Okay, but what you can do in the metaverse, what we did for a Dubai-based company, we created for them a little mall, right? A small mall. It's just a first use case, but what we really see is that here also, if you create a mall with different stores, you know, you can actually go to one store, and just like in a normal shopping experience, you see other stores, right? And you see, okay, maybe I can do window shopping, you know, buy this and buy that. If you can actually have a checkout experience in the metaverse and pay with cryptocurrency and all of that, and even also credit card, which is very important just for the average user, it makes it quite an interesting experience. And also what you can do is, I mean, you can go shopping with your friends, for example, right? You could meet up in a metaverse where you go shopping, which you, for example, you cannot do on Amazon.com, right? So that is, for example, a store also that we created inside of the mall for a glasses provider. It's still a work in progress, but those are things that we're seeing and that we're testing and that we're having very interesting learnings from. The other thing that we are doing, the second pillar, is NFTs, right? And yeah, as I mentioned before, many of the brands, they watched what happened with, you know, the large brands being early, testing the metaverse, testing NFTs, and having a lot of attention and also to some degree financial results that were very interesting. So the thing is, the average brand has no idea how to do that, and they're afraid of taking risks. Yeah, what if it doesn't work? You know, what if it all becomes a very how do you say, a big embarrassment, right? So what we wanted to do is create a very standardized platform where you just go, you create a profile, and you can, through a very automatic process, create your own NFT collections. And what we did there is we partnered with Sport Radar. I'm not sure you're aware, you know this company. It's a Swiss-based company, but they actually have a very large office. I think the largest office here in Vienna. I think they're a $4 billion company listed on the NASDAQ. And what they do is their business is data, right? Sport data. They sell it to to betting platforms who need very high quality data, right, in order to make their bets and to settle the bets. And so it needs to be real time. So we are in their accelerator program because they obviously also want to monetize their data in a different way, not just B2B, but B2C ideally. And so we receive the data from them, and we wrap it whenever a sport event occurs. And that can be anything, right? It can be a start of the game, an end of a game, a goal that is being scored, a free throw, really anything, right? You could choose whatever interests you, and we create automatically in the second that the event happens, the frame, right? The frame is very standard. It contains just simply the pure data, and then the brand or even an athlete or a club, right? They can brand it. They can brand it, and they can put an image. It could be an image of the sport event itself, if they have the rights to it, or it can be anything else really, right? They're free to be creative. And this was our first big event where we actually did it. It was the Erste Bank Open, right here in Vienna last October. We created a pretty interesting use case and we made a video about it. Please bear in mind it was the first one, okay, just also with regards to the information that we give there. And I hope that this plays. Yeah.
As interactions become more and more digital, it's easy to imagine that a quarter of us will be working, studying, shopping, socializing, or at least an hour a day by 2026 in fully virtual immersive spaces called the Metaverse. The sporting world's biggest teams, leagues, and stars have been scrambling to find innovative ways to get in on the Web3 action. Erste Bank Vienna Open saw the potential and decided to take a swing at the Metaverse. Erste Bank Open had a whole lot of first ever moments in this collaboration. First, we focused on what brings sports fans together in the real world: emotions. We then captured and minted NFTs of unique sporting moments live as they happened, preserving the memory and emotion. These were made available in the Moment Marketplace, where fans could buy and trade NFTs of their favorite player's victory or other special moments. We also created Erste Bank Open's first Metaverse space, bringing the tennis community together during the tournament. Our partner, Block&Wine, hosted the first virtual interviews with sporting legends and members of the Austrian tennis ecosystem.
Ja, natürlich noch ein bisschen ungewohnt, aber ich finde es so die Power fantastisch, dass ich hier diesen Ausflug noch machen kann.
Ja, vor dem Bild, vor dem ich stehe, gefällt es mir natürlich gut. Das ist, mein Sieg aus 2009 ist da quasi festgehalten worden und ist was Neues, aber definitiv wäre es auszuprobieren. Ja, schon ein bisschen spacig, also wir müssen immer ein bisschen zurechtfinden. Ist natürlich ganz was anderes, wobei was das anbelangt, anbieten, weil es jetzt nur Zoom-Meetings kennt man halt so gefühlt, ist es doch ein bisschen virtueller und oder nicht nur Telefonat, ja, spannend.
To further create engagement, fans had the chance to play and win prizes from Erste Bank Open and partners Block&Wine and Better Tennis. Over 500 people stopped by the Metaverse and the platform organically, without any media investment, while the interviews and social content reached over 30,000 people across our own and partner social channels.
Ich glaube, es bietet uns einfach eine neue Plattform, einen neuen Kanal, wo wir als Marke, wo wir als Turnier mit unseren Fans interagieren können.
Ja, total spannende und neue Erfahrung. Bin geflasht und jetzt zumindest auf dem ersten Meter begeistert. Gratulation gleich ans Moments-Team und alle Beteiligten für den Nachbau der Wiener Stadthalle.
First steps on a journey of miles into the Metaverse.
So because you asked before, like what is a sustainable way, right, to create NFTs? So it's a good question, right? But we think that, I'm not sure what you all think, but probably the big hype where you could just post a collection and it's going to go for immense amounts of money is, yeah, probably for most of the projects over, yeah? But we think that it will be more and more important to, first of all, create NFTs of things which already matter to people, like where already people would say like, okay, I could imagine, you know, collecting this or collecting that, right? Especially if you go into the world of sports and sports fans and so on. I mean, the sports merchandising market is a $60 billion market, right? So if you could just grab a small piece of that market, it would already be interesting. But we also think that NFTs will have to offer a lot more value than just being collectibles, right? So we need to create a gamification around it, right? We need to give extra value, like an NFT needs to become a coupon of some sort, an entry ticket, or something like that. Also, more and more, I mean, the technological standard make it possible that also you have an NFT, and in the after on, right, you load it with additional value, which can also be redeemed and taken away, and so that makes it actually quite interesting. Yeah, so that was our first case with Erste Bank Open, which is how do you call it? It's an event, right? I mean, it's a cup. What do you say? A tournament. Yeah, it's a tournament, right? So that's a use case, like for example, for a tournament. But what is interesting is that in sports, there are so many sponsors, right? Brands pay so much money to be a sponsor of an event or of a club, right? And few of them actually think that they're really getting all of the value, right, that they pay for it. So what they want is to give immersive experiences, right? Ideally, right? To leverage the sponsorship in an immersive way. So just a few months after the Erste Bank Open, we had a use case with Kia Motors and the Australian Open. So Kia is actually an official sponsor, right? And they had their new automobile that they were promoting at the time. And so we set up a campaign all around the Australian Open, where we also created NFTs live, right? Kia didn't have the rights to those. So we said, okay, you know what? Let's create AI-created content, right? Because we don't want to wait a long time to finish the NFT, right? If we want to make it as real time as possible, we need to wait for a long time to actually get the content on. Then let's do it in an artificial intelligence kind of way, right? So we wrote code to kind of like prompt automatic pictures that are not obviously really exactly related to the moment, because AI doesn't really know, how the different sport, athletes look like and stuff like that. But still, we wanted to create nice collectibles, real time, that people would be interested in. And we created, this whole Kia cosmos, where they were also, you could watch promotional videos. You could actually see 3D objects of the cars, or you could walk around it. You can look inside of it, and kind of like to make it in a very engaging way. That was one use case. A very similar one was just days after, where we actually for the NFL, for the Super Bowl, we partnered up with TCL. TCL is a Chinese manufacturer of TV screens, if you know it. They're also official sponsor of NFL. They had the same problem, right? How can we make more of our sponsorship? So again, we created artificial intelligence pictures to the real moments, and we created this world, yeah. So we actually rebuilt the stadium for the Super Bowl. Then we created all the experiences around it, and we also started to test out different activations that we can do with people, right? With the people that come into the space. So we actually, one day before the Super Bowl event, we had on the large screen inside of that stadium, we actually had two famous Twitch players play against each other, play out the match of the following day. So that created a lot of attraction actually. And we used the NFTs also in the Kia Cosmos, not to sell them, but actually to create games around it where you can win the NFTs, right? So where actually the NFTs are created, and then they are put in the Metaverse, and the first person to go there and to actually take a selfie and to put it on social media would actually win that, right? For example, things like that. Or treasure hunt we created in the TCL space, where basically on one day at a particular time, everybody knew when it was. You could go in the Metaverse and you could try to find a golden helmet, right? Football helmet. And the first one to find it and to post a picture on social media would actually win something. I think they won a TV, right? I think they won a TV. Yeah. Okay. Anyways, so that was another use case. And we actually created several in the meantime, yeah? Okay, so these are the ones I already showed you. We are creating NFTs for Formula One, for GPX Store, which is a Dubai-based company. They actually sell memorabilia, right? So they actually helmets, you know, which Michael Schumacher wore in a race. You can actually buy whole Formula One cars, right? If they have the cash to do that, right? And of course, they want some promotion. They want people to know what they're doing. So they're creating moments and putting items on it that they actually have in store, right? That you can actually buy. Then for Better Tennis, you probably know it. It's kind of like a charitable organization, right? That is looking to help young uprising tennis stars in Austria. We made moments around Erste Bank Open, and we put some famous quotes of tennis players on it, and we're selling them for charity purposes, really, right? Another use case. I hope I'm not boring you with these things. But this was a very interesting use case for us with Burger King together. During the FIFA actually already, we created FIFA moments, and they could put, you know, whatever Burger King images they wanted on it. Yeah, they didn't promote it much. They just wanted to test it. Yeah, which was totally fine for us. We created the Whopper World, which is a football stadium in the shape of a big Whopper, and you can basically go in there and you can have a look at the NFTs. We are now working on upgrading this one, putting a lot of gamification inside, so that you can actually play games like, you know, you spin a wheel and whatever. You have to collect ice cream, so ice creams pop up. You have to run there, you have to get them, and if you do it in a certain amount of time, you win something, just to kind of like engage the users, right? Okay, so one use case. This is my last use case, okay, which is kind of obvious, is that sports clubs or athletes can also create their own moments, right? And as I said before, we want to be a platform that is super simple. You just go on our website, you log yourself in, you create an account, and then basically you could choose the moments that you want to mint NFTs for. You choose the pictures, and then basically you're ready to go. We're upgrading this. Just if you really go on our website to try it, it's down right now for probably another 1 or 2 weeks because we're adding some features. But FC20, I'm not sure you know this club. It's a first league club in the Netherlands. They're our first use case testing that, and we actually have a video as well. Kind of like to recap. I think that in the whole Web3 space, no one has entirely figured it out yet, and it's an evolving process, right? But the best thing that you can do is to try out things. And our CEO, Pascal, whenever he talks to a client, he always says, I can promise you 3 things, okay? 3 things. The first thing is, you're gonna be disappointed. Okay, so you're going to be disappointed in the way that, especially you do something, and not everyone is going to love it because there's so many skeptics around, you know, NFTs, and so many skeptics around many other things. So to some degree, you're going to be disappointed. The second thing is the tech is not always going to work, right? Even on my laptop it didn't work, but especially, you know, in Metaverse and so on, it doesn't always work. Okay, but the third thing that we can promise is that if you really immerse yourself in the experience, you're going to see entirely new worlds opening up, really literally, and you're going to start to see so many opportunities, and you're going to see so many things where you think the future is going to go, right? All the mistakes that are going to happen on the way are definitely going to be worth the learning, and are definitely going to be worth, the vision and the understanding of the space. And I think all of you being blockchain enthusiasts, I think maybe you've already gone through some kind of this experience before, when you kind of like immerse yourself in the blockchain space, and all of a sudden you see the world in a different way, and it doesn't let you go, right? And I think Web3 and the Metaverse and all of these things are very, very similar. And yeah, that's our learnings. That's what we do. Very happy to hear questions.
Three questions. On the Erste Bank example, you created the Metaverse area that was shown in the interview examples.
Yeah. Okay. So.
That was the first question.
Whether we created it?
Yeah.
Okay, so that was our very first use case. It was a standard template actually in that case. Yeah. It was a standard template that we took, but we equipped it with everything, right?
Perfect. The second question was with the data you were bringing in from Tourada. I'm actually thinking of this from a monetization point of view.
Yeah.
That was being fed in with Tourada into those moments.
That's right.
And with the rights of those photographs, was that with Erste Bank, those rights?
Yes, right. So they had the rights, that is why we could use them, right? So what we had legally checked and all that is that we could use the data, right? It's just pure data. It's just like if you, a newspaper can print the data, right? Like of what happened in the game, for example, right? So we're just really using that and creating a platform for other people to add on top what they want.
Yeah, that's super cool how you can actually, from the monetization point of view, combining the market data and also the imagery, if not video component. That's actually really cool use case.
Yeah. So what is really important there is that the brand that creates the NFT in the end with the image and so on, it's their responsibility. I mean, obviously we have to check, we can advise and so on. We can help to have AI created content and so on. But yeah, that's definitely a thing where we have to really be careful. But I think we've got to figure it out at this point.
One question from my side. I mean, you obviously these 3 points from Pascal, from the CEO, but let's focus just on the third one. What exactly do you see from the journey you've shown from after open till F220? Where did you have the most engagement with users directly? And the second question is, obviously brands are looking towards recognition and engagement with the users of those who, might think the brand is attractive in the first place, which adds to revenue streams in the last end. Do you have factors or quantitative numbers on how you were possibly able to engage and prosper user or consumer brand engagement?
Yeah. Good questions. Okay, so the most engagement we saw with the TCL space, with the Super Bowl, right? So, but the reason, the very clear reason I can tell you why it was, is because they were really behind it. They really wanted it, right? They really tried to move their community. They spent money on advertisement and all of that, right? They created content, right? They brought these Twitch players, right, into the Metaverse to play a game, right, which was quite relevant to their community. So I think on that day, I think we saw 12,000 or so visits. So which was a lot, which was definitely a lot. And so that's also the key for us, right? So we can create many things, right? But we can create many things for others, but they have to mobilize their community. They have to come up with ideas for how to engage them. But then it works. I mean, it worked pretty well. Of course, one has to say that the Metaverse is still not for everyone, right? Also, some people we saw, from some browsers, logging in wasn't so easy, and these technical things. So I think we lost a lot of users actually there. But yeah, these are learnings that we have. And I'm sure for the next time that TCL does something, they will be able to bring many more, because I think the users also communicate amongst each other, and to actually, we saw more and more engagement from activity to activity. That's definitely something we saw. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Like maybe one question. The thing is, if you're coming from the gaming space in some area, right?
Yeah.
You hear the word Metaverse. For us, it's like it's a video game, right? You're just making personalized video games for some space where we can collaborate. Maybe it's a better individualized interface, you could say so, right?
Yeah.
And the question is, have you thought about also entering the video game space, because there are already highly developed virtual spaces already here where billions of people already interact with, right? And
Yeah.
could you not start there to create NFTs? Did you think about that?
Good question. So that we actually use the gaming platforms to do that. Not specifically, not as a pretty good idea, but we really looked around with different metaverses. I mean, they all have different features, right? They cater to different kind of like use case. So what is definitely important is that it's easily accessible for everyone, right? So I'm not sure, do you need a special console for that? Do you need to download an app? That's always something which is a big hurdle. So we would have to consider it, but maybe for some clients that would be a good platform. Yeah, good idea.
Is the biggest hurdle for the Metaverse VR classes?
No, definitely not. I mean, I think so. I thought it was pretty interesting that the experiences with the VR classes here in this crowd didn't seem to be that good. I mean, for us, with the people that we talked to, for them the experience is 10 times more immersive when they use glasses. But it definitely works. I mean, it even works on mobile, right? To some degree. I mean, it's much less immersive, but we see a lot of users coming in with mobile. So that is also always a big hurdle. I mean, not every smartphone does it the same. It does it as well as one thing. And also to see that the experience is good on mobile is definitely a challenge. But so you need to make it work for mobile, for desktop, and for VR. That's a big challenge for sure.
Maybe one additional question. I didn't get when do you know how to time the captured frame and make an NFT out of it? When do you know that they shoot the goal or something?
Yeah, like so because we have an API, right, from Sport Radar, and the information comes through automatically, and immediately the NFT is created.
Okay, it's completely automatic.
It's completely automatic.
Oh, okay.
That's right.
And the thing is, you're taking pictures or also video clips?
Yeah, okay, so that's the thing. I mean, if that happens, then of course that has to be time delayed, right? Yeah. I mean, because you need to filter out the content, you need to cut it, you need to do all of those things. So the NFT is still created in real time, right? But then in that case, that image actually has to be added. So that's a different process. But it's possible, right? That's what we did for Esteban, for example. 20, right. Mm-hmm.
Where do you get the pictures from?
Yeah, so it's always the brand, right? The promoter, we call it in that case. They are responsible or they can think of whatever they want to put on. They can be creative, we can help them. But if they have rights to content and they want to put it on, they can put it on. Yeah. So I think that we will experience an experiment with much more is the utility that you can give to the NFTs, because we think that is going to be key, right? Gamification is going to be key, right? So you have some very successful projects like SoRare, for example, right? They do that already pretty well, right? Because there is an NFT that you can actually that gets some value from the use you have of it, right? And we think that this is going to be much more the case also in the future. But we think that NFTs is going to be something that's going to be very inflationary, let's say, right? I mean, you're going to have wallets with hundreds of NFTs on them, right? It's going to be like some of them are just going to be like coupons, right? They're not going to be very valuable to you, but other ones are going to be, right? And the value comes from things like, okay, what can you do with it? But also, what's that moment, right? That goal, right? That's on this NFT. Did that have a special meaning to you, right? Were you there? Did you watch the game, right? Was that the first game you ever watched, and the most happy experience you ever had in your life, whatever, right? So that's also kind of like where the value of NFTs comes from is personalized, right? Like what is important to the people, right?
Does the NFT also acquire the copyright of the picture, or does it remain with the provider? So is he also entitled to reuse the picture, for example, for publications in magazines or whatever? Or is he not entitled to it?
Well, it depends. It can be anything, but by default, we say that you only acquire the viewing rights. You can view it, you can post it on social media, but you cannot monetize it.
Okay.
Yeah, that's by default. We're happy to try out anything else. Right.
Which industries would you see are most interesting now for your business? Is it education? You mentioned university. Is it sports? You mentioned that. Is education is a thing where you see people go edutech?
Definitely, yeah. So as I said, we just signed a university in Switzerland to do that. Switzerland is, I guess, a little bit progressive also in that space. I mean, they actually have classes on Web3 and so at that university, so it's kind of like it's not that far away from what they really do. But anything where you really just convey content, right? Like what we're doing here, we could do in the Metaverse, right? So teaching is something, having conversations is definitely something. Also having meetings in any way, right? I mean, we could as I said, you could replace many websites by a Metaverse page, right? You could just put the content in different rooms, right? Instead of having just different things to click on, you can say in that room you'll find that information, this one there. There is an avatar, artificial intelligence based that can actually answer your question, where do you find what, something like this. Definitely that. Then, of course, industries where they can actually sell a product in the Metaverse. So, for example, clothing, right, is definitely something, or something, anything where you can sell a coupon, right? So that could basically be almost anything. Those industries, but in general, really companies that in the sports space that have a stake in the sports space and that want to make it monetize it more immersive way. Yeah. But as I said, brands have to try out, we have to try out, and every day we're getting new ideas and the world becomes more open. So it's a really interesting journey for us.
So just one addition. We started with the first project in October last year. So all those use cases are within 4 months. What we see the first the utilities. Let me give you an example. If you're a holder of such a moment, you get tennis balls signed from Daniel Medvedev. We had entry tickets for the finals. We had entry tickets for the semifinals from the event organization, of course. So we do not buy them. We offer them an additional, let's say, marketing perspective with this immersive experience of NFTs. And we told, for example, all the holders, who are the 20 holders that get tennis balls. Please get to the shop palette and collect the tennis balls. It's all registered. So within this few months, we relate on brands who are activated in the sports business and who are related to the sports business, and you see their huge potential. Because every sports club, especially sports clubs, they've got huge fan bases. FC20, for example, has got different bases of 100,000 of people on social channels, 200,000 followers, and so on. With this base, we try to grow, and we try to grow with the use cases, to scale up with the use cases. So our first intensity was not to start to finish the product totally fine and to start the communication. We started with the use cases build up data. And with the first case of the 80 people with 500, there was the second one, there was the third one. And with the first football club, we're getting in touch with the next ones in Austria, in Germany, they want to do it. Let's say also the pipeline is pretty good.
Right. So I think we're a very open company. So if you want to try creating NFTs, or you have ideas for the Metaverse, you have some company that might be interested in working with us.
So maybe one idea. As we accelerate, we also run this hub, right? We have a lot of companies, also Valid and Georg is sitting here, right? And we try to enable collaboration between these companies and outside. So what could you do and how much time would you need to create like some virtual space that we can just test and collaborate in?
Let's talk about it. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
Yeah. So one thing, one small learning that we had. So in the beginning, you know, companies wanted to when they said, okay, we want to do something in the metaverse, you know, they thought, okay, to create like a digital twin, right, of something that already exists, and to create a twin, right? But more and more, like for example, that you saw our spaces for the sports spaces became more and more crazy, or more and more like, you know, out of the ordinary, because, you know, you're actually so flexible to do whatever you want, right? You can if you build a mall, right, you're not limited by space, right? You can create it as big as you want. You can put, you can put a roller coaster in it, right? You can put a spaceship in it, right? You can do whatever you want. You can just, kind of like really be creative and think like, if I could, you know, just really free myself from all preconception, you know, how would I do something? And that's pretty cool that you can do in the metaverse, right?
That's awesome.
Okay.
Thanks so much.
Thank you for your attention.